everyone, this is This Week in Webseries. I'm Travis Gordon. This is, introduce yourself, Chris.
Hey, I'm Chris Greenaway. How you doing?
And he's well known for producing Venus Spa. Watch Venus Spa on YouTube, and I do Spell Fury at spellfury.com. It's a fantasy web series. And today we're just going to talk about some of the things that are happening in the web series community. Chris, you have a list of some things we can discuss?
Well, there's a lot of stuff been going on. The one ongoing thing, we touched on it last week. This is just for openers. In LA, they've been talking about getting rid of the web in web series.
Yes.
It's now Indie InterTube also touched on this for a lot longer, and the concept of the self-loathing. And so there is something
So should we change our name to This Week in Series?
I think we should just be This Week. I'm thinking series will be the next dirty word.
Oh, right. They'd go after that.
And then this will be also eliminated, so we'll just be week.
We're bringing you week every week. Yeah, and then they won't like that. Then we'll be a symbol like Prince.
That would actually be better. Let's do it.
Okay, so I cut you off with talking about the self-loathing. I also listened to Indie InterTube last night as well. So
it's become it's an issue that I don't understand why it's an issue at all. But I will say this: if you're ashamed of being on the web, don't be there. Don't try to change. Say I make television. Well, you don't make television. This isn't. I'm not talking into a television right now, and so don't try to pretend you're something you're not. Be proud of who you are and what you are and what you're trying to accomplish, and don't worry about the other stuff. I mean, if you want this to just be a training ground, that's all the power to you, but don't treat it like you're in the closet because you're on the web. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
You know, I'm proud of it. I'm happy about it. I'm not concerned about movies or television or radio or whatever. It's here, and it's not going away, and I'm happy to be there.
I like the web better than TV. I like web series better than TV because if I was just doing a TV show, it would be up there, and I think I would lose that interaction with the fans.
Yeah.
Like I'd love. There's nothing more thrilling than releasing an episode and seeing everyone comment on it. And you get that instant feedback as soon as it's ready. And TV doesn't do that.
No, it doesn't. It's a passive viewing experience. And it's a different medium. And it really is a different business. Like putting out, or if you put out singles or you put out albums, that's a different, pop music versus album rock or whatever is a different business. And the same is true here. I mean, and I don't have a problem with the fact that it is a different business. I'm going to show you guys something. Check this out. This is my cell phone. Got a little screen on it. See how small that is? I can access the internet with this, and I can watch YouTube shows and other series online with it anywhere I want. But that's the beauty of it: is the screens are small. Everything is very different, and it's adaptable, it's adjustable, but it's on the web. And this wouldn't exist if it was just television. Can you imagine me carrying here? I'm going to move my camera over here. Do you see my television?
I do.
Can you imagine me carrying that around trying to contact people with it?
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's a different world. It's a new era, and it's exciting. It's fun. It's got endless possibilities, and we should be embracing it and not hiding from it.
Sure. And a good example of that is, for instance, in Canada we have space. The States has sci-fi, which is like science fiction fantasy shows. And if, let's say, Spell Fury were to get on space, only people in Canada would be able to see that show.
That's right.
So I'm missing out on the rest of the world.
Right.
But with a web series, there's no ceiling. There's no ceiling of audience. It's 6 billion people or whatever it's at right now. But 6 billion people potential can watch my show around the whole globe.
That's the beauty of it, and I think a lot of people in the industry are missing out on that and not grasping just how big things can get and how far you can take it, and I think that holds us back.
And also advertising. Like you can advertise to the entire planet if you give money to a web series who promotes you, puts you product placements or a commercial or like there's more money to be made in a web series than TV, potentially.
Potentially, yes, and especially if you do it right. I'm not going to get into a long rant about geo-blocking. That's a whole other show, but. Yeah, if you block parts of the world from seeing you, that's money you're not going to see, and that's a big time hindrance for your project. And I think that as long as you think outside of that and think about the whole world, then you're gonna do well, or at least your potential of doing well is going to be better than somebody else.
Yeah, no, it's of course harder work than a television show because I guess the channel will be promoting you, so you've got to do it all yourself. So yeah, it's a lot harder, but I think the payoff is a lot bigger than what people think.
Absolutely, and we talked about Fred, we talked about Shane Dawson last week, and that's how do I put it? That's a good example. The future is right there. These guys started from nothing, and look at how big they've gotten. And they're only going to get bigger, and they've passed most of us by. In our case, we're still, I think we're doing pretty good, but, a lot of others just aren't able to keep up because they don't understand why they've gotten as big as they are. It's all about striking a chord and reaching that bigger audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With YouTube's, if you got in early, and it was good. It's harder to break in now, I find, than in the past.
Well, it's harder to break in every month.
Yeah.
Everything gets bigger, and every so often you get an epic mealtime that just comes out of nowhere, but that's once a generation. Mm-hmm. The others earned it.
Right. Well, and YouTube.
Well, I'm not. Before I go on, before you say that, I'm not saying epic mealtime didn't earn it. But I am saying that what happened to them was really once in a lifetime because it just happened literally almost overnight, and that doesn't happen every day. And most people have to really roll up their sleeves just to get numbers even close to that.
Yeah, well, and although you might not have as many hits viral videos. What you get, you're going to have a lot more blue-collar workers almost, like, you and I. We're not making huge money, we're making some money, and it helps, and we're working our butts off. We're not celebrities by any means, but we're growing our audience, and we're making a little bit more money as we go along, and we keep branding, and I think there's going to be a lot of room for a lot of people to do okay making a show. Hopefully everyone will be sustainable, and a lot more, instead of just like a few people making money, I think there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of people to make a little money, if that makes sense.
But you know what? The world's changing, and that's probably going to be more true as we go. We're in an era now where Snooki matters just as much as Brad Pitt, and in terms of one of the world's biggest movie stars, compared to a girl that got famous by getting drunk and getting punched on a reality show. But she'll walk the same red carpet as him. So the world's changing, and YouTube stars are becoming the next generation of celebrities. Now, not everybody can be YouTube stars, but people can find their niche. But the more that happens on this side, the more it'll trickle down to the rest of us. And I think everybody's going to end up benefiting from what's happening on YouTube with the Dawsons and the Freds and the Lisa Novas of the world, who have gotten to a tremendous height and have built their own studios. And people are going to start seeing the potential, just how big this whole space can get. Mm-hmm. And how television's not a growth industry anymore. It's all reboots now, it seems.
Yeah, and their numbers are going down every year.
Absolutely, and they've been going down every year for, 15 years now, and that's not going to improve for them anytime soon.
Yeah, there's interesting stuff happening with the top YouTubers, just with products brands coming to them and paying them for an episode just to do an episode about a product. The advertisers are the smart ones.
Netflix.
What's that?
Charles Trippy and Allie got their Netflix deal. They have a film club now, or a movie club.
Oh, wow.
They do a review of a movie and ask what people think of it, and on Allie's channel, which is youtube.com/Allie, and Olga K also has one now as well.
Yeah, Netflix is spending a lot of money right now online. Well, obviously, because that's where they are, right?
That's where they started. That's where they're going to be in the foreseeable future. And
I know Leo Laporte has been doing a lot of Netflix ads on his shows.
And don't forget, and YouTubers now. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Phil DeFranco or Shane Dawson doing that in a few months, because looks like they're looking to spend on some of the biggest names around, and they're getting a lot of comments. I know Allie's last one had a few thousand comments, so their fans are getting into it. So the potential's there, and it's only going to help us later.
Yeah. It's getting brands comfortable with dealing with online personalities and shows,
and accepting that the style is as important as the content in terms of quality. Like, it doesn't have to be Avatar on the web. It doesn't have to look that good. It just has to resonate with people on a human level.
Right. Yeah, you just need the connection with people.
Like, Charles and Allie they've always used like cheap little webcams or whatever's mobile to take with them, so they can edit it fast and put their story online every day. And like the one with Netflix is just them on a webcam in their car on the new one.
Right.
And Netflix is paying them, I don't know how much, but I'm sure it's not zero. But so obviously they're okay with the fact that they don't have cinematic quality with gorgeous lights and all the other bells and whistles that Hollywood tells us we need.
Right.
So I think the more advertisers see that as long as you connect and present well to an audience on a human level, they're not going to be afraid of it. They're not going to say, oh, this is all crap.
Well, you know what? They love the metrics. They love the numbers.
That's right.
I know when I talked to some marketing guys, all they wanted to talk about was my numbers. They didn't care that much about the show. They're like, how many eyeballs are you getting, and what age group is are they male, are they female, and what age group? That's what they wanted to know, and I talked for like an hour just about numbers.
And so did you cold call them, or how did that go? Email, or?
Well, one guy phoned me just out of the blue. And was curious about the show, and it was a big Canadian company, and we just talked numbers. I gave him a brief outline of the show. He already watched one episode, and we just talked numbers. And he was just, what are your numbers? Can you back them up? So with these YouTubers, these advertisers are just going, wow, these numbers are insane. They're paying for eyeballs.
Yeah. And it's going to continue that way. And I think that having high quality content, there's always going to be a place for it. HBO doesn't get insane viewership compared to other television networks. In fact, I don't think they've ever had a television series in their history that could run with Jersey Shore, but it has an audience that is always there for them, and they pay money to subscribe to their network. And I think the same will be true later. I think premium content will exist, but I think that quick and dirty and something that just plain resonates is going to be king for a while.
Like
and everything else. Was that
South Park?
South Park.
It's just like crappy.
Kevin Spencer?
What's that? Oh yeah, Kevin. I remember Kevin Spencer. Yeah.
That one made South Park look like Avatar.
Yeah. That was Flash animation. I actually auditioned doing voices for the show
cool.
back in the day.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think I almost got the part, but it was one of those examples where when you get the deal and then you keep trying to sell, I think they're like, oh, we don't want this guy on set. He keeps talking. He goes, he already has the part. It's like if you've sold something, just be quiet. You don't have to keep selling. It was a big lesson.
I know that feeling.
Yeah. It's like, shut up, you got it. But anyways, but yeah. So what was your? Do you have a second topic there? Or?
Okay, this one is a bit of an insider topic. Recently, Tom Conkle, formerly of Safety Geeks SVI, went legend on the IAWTV Facebook page.
Yes, I remember reading that.
These rants are iconic. I don't want to laugh at him, but oh my God, this was.
Well, Tom, like he tells us his opinion over the years. I know I've read he's very opinionated, and and which I appreciate, like people saying what's on their mind. But this one, I think people really pounced on this one.
This one, basically, his. Before we get into let's set this up here. Exactly what he said. I'm sure, as most people in the web community seem to know, or if they don't, will soon. The International Academy of Web TV is having their first annual award show in January in Las Vegas at the CES convention, the Consumer Electronics Show. And it's going to be promoted quite heavily. They're going to be at one of the major venues of the event, and it's going to be in Vegas, so it's, it'll be fun if you're in Vegas. So, but that's all we know so far. They don't have much else announced yet, and at least that they've made public in press releases. But that's basically what he has a problem with, is the fact that it's in Las Vegas and not in L.A.
Right, yeah.
Now, I think he's very off base when he talks about travel and meals and whatnot. It's like, I feel like he's implying that us on the outside need to go to L.A. He doesn't. They're too good to come to another city to be part of an event of this caliber, and that irks me, because in all honesty, Vegas is probably the cheapest flight in North America at that time of year.
Right.
I mean, how much? I don't know how much. It was about $1,000 for me to go to L.A. in, I think it was January 2010, early February. It's about $300 to go to Vegas same time of the year.
Is it really? Oh,
Less
wow.
than, maybe $250.
And now, is that there and back, or just one?
Yeah.
Wow.
There and back, Monday through Thursday, or Thursday through Sunday.
Huh.
So you get like a 3 or 4 day weekend. And hotels right now, like Circus, $24 a night at that time.
Huh.
So you can get like Imperial Palace like $22, $24 a night.
Right.
So I mean, you're talking that's youth hostel money.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. That's for a real hotel room with real beds, and that you're probably not going to spend much time in anyway because you're going to be too busy at the convention. I mean, so compare that to L.A. I mean, yeah, folks in L.A. have to actually show up and leave the city and go to another one. But if you're going to up and travel to another city for an award show, would you rather be anywhere else in January than Vegas?
Right. I like it. I like it. I like that I don't have to go to LA. Tom's got to travel, 4 hours to get there. And it's like, I go, that's not that big of a deal to me. Like, if there was something going on in Toronto that's about 4 hours away, it's not that big of an issue.
Yeah.
But for us, it's like we're traveling, from a different country to come,
Yeah.
It's a lot of time invested.
Yeah, the thing that really irked me about Tom's comments was that he's claiming, like, as I found out, people with lots of money usually have happened. Someone else, I can't even pronounce. He rambles here, and it doesn't make sense. But basically, what he was saying was he thinks, big media will show up, but the rest of us can't. I'm like, it's a 4-hour drive, and you only need a day or two, and I'm from Winnipeg, you're from Ottawa, if we were to come down, it would be a lot. It's a lot cheaper for us to go to Vegas, and we're not big media, so
right.
I think that people in Iowa or even New York or something would be much cooler with going to a place that's a little closer and a lot cheaper than to have to come down to LA and go through the traffic and all the other BS that we don't know much about because we're not from there, so we don't know the city that well. And don't want to get hosed $200 for a cab from one end of town to the other, which is, if you've ever tried to go coast to coast in LA from one end to the other, it's a long trek.
Right. And again, it's the International Academy of Web Television.
Yes, bingo.
So let's start looking out for the international part of it and not so much the LA part of it. I think it's
exactly.
Is he upset because things are shifting? Since
I think he is, and I'll say this much because I know he said to me in the past things like, "Don't blame us in LA for having the guts to come out here and you didn't," and that's always stuck in my craw. And I think that this is probably that feeling is how dare other people get in. He was dead set against outsiders joining the academy.
Oh yeah.
He wanted it to be the old way, which was it was all who you knew. It's the only way you could get in. That's basically the way he wanted it. He really didn't want outsiders to join the academy. And I think he has a really big problem with the expanding web space, and which I think is unfortunate because he's missing out on a lot by limiting himself.
Right. And again, he's in a different place than we are. He's got 1 foot in TV, 1 foot in sort of the web series world, where we're true web guys. So yeah. He's trying to play both sides, and he's in a different spot.
Yeah.
I did like Safety Geeks. I thought it was
entertaining. It definitely was.
It was really slick. I like their comedy. I think he's a really funny guy. And he's a hustler. But yeah, he's in a different spot than us, and I think that's what's going on. Is it's shifting to international, and that's the way it should go.
Exactly. That's the thing. Is LA, like I said last week, in terms of being a web series mecca, is no better than Des Moines. I mean, not many shows out there are any bigger or better than anything in Winnipeg or Ottawa or Toronto or London, England, or Hong Kong. I mean, the rest of the world has caught up, and they've learned the Obama quote, "Yes, we can." And I think that there's some people that may or may not like that, and which is unfortunate. But you embrace the ones that do, and you forget about the ones that don't. In that respect, because otherwise you're going to be in for some bad experiences. I think that as long as the world is your focus, everything will be cool.
My advice when people ask me, how should I start doing this web series? I have this great idea. From wherever they are, I sometimes get emails asking that. And even with short films and features, because I've done a few features, my advice to them is always do your project where it's easiest for you to do it. So if it's in your hometown with all your buddies and all your friends have cars and lots of properties you can shoot in, that's the best place to do it. So if you're gonna move to LA and want to do your web series there, everything's gonna be pricey. Everything's gonna be expensive, and it's gonna be 10 times harder to do your project in LA. Do it in your hometown.
Absolutely.
Do it in your hometown.
Don't forget, LA is not a right-to-work state, so you got to deal with unions, and you got to deal with all sorts of hoops to jump through just to do something that would take half an hour almost anywhere else. Any major city will be like that. Denver will be like that. New York, middle of the road. New York's usually pretty good to indie filmmakers, but you still got to deal with cops telling you where you can and can't shoot.
Yeah.
You go to Miami, you'll have the same problems. These are all. That's what happens when you go from a small center to a huge one. I mean, there's upsides, but the downside is just how steep the costs will go up.
Right. Yeah. Because it would be hard to do probably Spell Fury in LA. Everything, your rent's more expensive. You're just everything's more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against shooting there if I need to, but I normally would not. Like Venus Spa probably wouldn't work in LA. You know, I don't think that it would have the same vibe. I don't think that I would be able to get the same spirit of the era that I'm trying to shoot. You know, some cities work for this sort of thing, some cities don't. Like Brokeback Mountain worked very well for where it was shot. It would not have worked in downtown LA, you know, or San Francisco or Detroit, downtown Detroit or something like that. I mean, it just wouldn't work. But they found a great location and it worked. I think it comes down to what can you afford, and what type of feel do you want. And I think you can find that just about anywhere, and especially if you're creative. Like, I've seen so many shows where people are with just two guys in a studio apartment doing not much else. That to me, you know what? You're selling yourself short if that's all you can come up with.
Right.
You know, how much of Spell Fury do you shoot on real locations? Like, I know there's some green screening involved.
Yeah, it's probably 50-50.
Okay.
It's probably 50% out in the woods, 50% in front of green screens. And for a reason, because in summer I can shoot outdoors, and then in winter I can't.
Exactly.
So we go indoors where it's warm and we put up green screens.
But you're able to do sci-fi fantasy in your house.
Yeah.
Or apartment or wherever. I'm 1,000 kilometers away. I don't know where you're at.
Yep. Yeah, a little house, and I have green screens up on my living room wall.
Cool. There you go. I mean, that enough said. I mean, you can do that. Like I've done it 3 or 4 different videos for Venus Spa in my living room too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are things you can do. I mean, you don't have to look at your apartment or your house and say, "What am I going to do here? I just have Bob and Doug McKenzie sitting on the couch."
Right.
You know that worked, but that was 30 years ago. You know, come up with something. You know, think beyond the walls of your home and think of what you can turn them into.
Right. Just think about telling a good story, an interesting story.
Yeah, and it will. And if it works, it'll resonate with people. If it doesn't, it won't.
Yeah.
But you have to look at that and not say, "Oh God, if only I was in Hollywood, I could get this person, I could get that person." You know what? Unless you got a lot of money, that's probably not going to happen anyway. So, build your craft. Cut your teeth and try to build yourself up. And then, if you really need to take that next step, it'll be there when you need it.
That's right. Yeah, you'll be noticed. Advertisers, will give you money if you get enough eyeballs.
Yeah, and that's something that is going to be more and more pronounced as we go, as the economy continues to improve a little bit, and advertisers are able to spend more money, and everyone starts having a little bit more money, I guess. Things will continue to grow, and our industry has been more stunted by the economy going bust in the States than it has by anything else, because the advertisers are really what makes the world go around. And if they're going bust, what are you going to get?
Right. Yeah, that's been tough on the web series industry, because things were going really well end of 2008, 2009, money-wise, and then it just took a dive.
I think 2 things happened around that era, from what I remember. The first one was exactly what you just said. The banks, I think, were bluffing personally, but that's another discussion. The auto industry went, things were just falling. It was like the sky was falling. And the other problem, I think, was the writer's strike. And let me explain why. The writer's strike is when all these disgruntled writers from Hollywood turned to the web. Everyone saw Joss Whedon go legend with the whole Dr. Horrible thing, and thought, I can do that. He got turned down by the networks, and he used his rejected pilot to turn into what Dr. Horrible became. Why can't I? Well, the problem was most of the others were just boring sitcom pilots and other junk. I mean, Strike TV, enough said, there was maybe 2 shows that resonated. The rest were just exactly that, bloated, rejected television pilots. And they were passed off as web series. And then the other thing was, this is a group that, out in LA, that's when the bubble started forming, and the lines in the sand got drawn. And that was YouTubers and us. So it was us and them. And that's really, that which was completely detrimental to how web series were developing before that started. And that was Lonely Girl 50, Cape Modern, Phil DeFranco, Hot for Work. Like, these were things that started off as vloggers and developed into real series with people, user-generated content is what was called back then. And shows like Quarter Life were really good examples of this, of groups of real people. Like, it was a little bit like MTV's The Real World. Same kind of vibe to it. But this was the kind of stuff that was developing before the whole, but it's not a web series. And, they struck gold. Felicia Day struck gold during that period of time, but most of the others struck coal. And it was, but why did we have to draw a line? Why did we have to say, YouTube, you guys you're not real producers? I think that was garbage. I think that was ridiculous that anyone would do that to them.
Well,
but we lost a good chunk of our evolution to that.
I know, at first, there was that poo-pooing of YouTube by web series creators. There's a lot of that, especially from LA guys. And
it was steeping.
Then what happened was it was about last year, some of the how much money the YouTubers were making was released, and all the LA guys all changed they changed their minds, and they're like, oh, wait a second, no. When they saw the money, they changed their opinions like that overnight.
Tube Filter did. I definitely agree on that one, but most of the creators I've encountered out there are just as elitist as they were then.
So they're still there.
They still play nice, and they'll still say, oh, good, the Fine Brothers are giving us advice, which I love the Fine Brothers, and I think that all of us can learn from them. But these guys would be like that and clapping like seals when they would be at the Tube Filter meetup, and then 2 days later they'd be writing them off again.
Oh, okay. So maybe it's only a percentage said, whoa, wait a second, there's some real business going on here.
Some did.
The smart ones, I guess.
The smart ones did, yeah. The others just won't change and are drawing flies.
Yeah.
And
they're
really
just stuck in their ways, I guess.
Yeah, it's almost like a generation gap. Like, I don't know if you saw the Indie InterTube television show a week ago on Sunday.
No, I think I missed it.
They posted on YouTube. It's the new one, number 7, I believe.
Okay.
And they had lots of trailers, previews for new series, and some old ones. Every single trailer that they posted looked like a generic Hollywood trailer. It looked like and they all looked generic. None of them stood out. The template, right? With a lot of boom.
Yeah.
And lots of like 10 to 50 fades to black. We should have a drinking game sometime. Chug a beer every time they fade to black. You die of alcohol poisoning within an hour. I mean, it was that, all of them looked the same.
Right.
And I'm like, have you learned nothing from guys like the Fines and Shane and Phil and even us? I mean, I will never, unless I'm making fun of it, ever do one with a whole bunch boom. In fact, let's do that right now. We'll do a trailer for it, and I'll keep going boom, boom. And you should have somebody come behind you, and they'll go boom. Come on, guys. Show some, the web isn't like that. This isn't a movie theater, Stop trying to ape traditional media and think outside the box a bit, because there's a reason why this stuff isn't resonating. Because if you want to be like the big boys in Hollywood, like the Steven Spielbergs, like, people are going to hold you to that standard.
Right, they'll compare you to that.
Yes. And if you can't live up to that, you know where you're going.
Yeah, and how can you? They've got hundreds of millions of dollars, and you've got a little bit.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
don't play their game.
Yeah, it's not worth it. It's better to start to build your own and think outside the box and try to resonate with a different audience and on a different level. And trying to pretend to be something you're not or don't have the money for, you're just going to end up looking bad at the end of the day, and you're definitely not going to hit the big time on the web. You know, don't think, oh, I couldn't make it in TV, but I'll kick ass on the web. You come in with that attitude. I remember 20 years ago when Doug Flutie came to the Canadian Football League. Doug didn't come alone. They had two big stars in BC when he signed. The other was former Sack King Mark Gastineau, who was best known for being married to Brigitte Nielsen at that point. He said, I'm going to, remember my sack record in the NFL? I'm going to break it in one game in Canada. That's what he said. Chris Walby, in his first game against him, literally smacked that taste out of that guy's mouth. He showed him what a bush leaguer he really was by talking like that.
Right.
6'8", 350.
Yeah.
He ain't no bush leaguer. I don't care what anyone says.
Exactly.
I don't care what league you're in. Don't come into another one saying you're all hot stuff, and then because someone's going to knock the taste out of your mouth, and it ain't going to be fun. You come in, look around you, learn the lay of the land, watch what's popular, and learn a bit more about, how does it work? How do they do it? And then craft something for it. Don't say, well, this didn't make it on television, but it'll definitely be kick-ass on the web. It'll find its audience there. That might be true. But craft it so it has the best chance to do so. Don't think, oh, I could just throw it up on the web and everyone will love it. That doesn't work.
Yeah, they come in and they're not watching what's working in other web series.
That's right.
You have to watch, and I do that all the time. I watch something and go, wow, that was a good shot. That was a good idea. Can I work that into my show somehow?
Yeah.
So take the things that are working and pull them into your show.
Yeah, and look at what's getting views. Look at why it's getting views. Like, go to search random words on YouTube. Look for what's popular. People bitch about cat videos. Like, that's one thing I keep hearing out of Hollywood. They always talk, oh, we got to prove we're better than just cat videos. Well, if cat videos are so big, why not make a show with cats?
Yeah.
Or about cats? Why not make, have, I don't know, even if it's animated. People will like animated cats. They always have. Even most of them are bad guy, but, even Itchy and Scratchy. I mean, come on, think about that. Like, for me, like, people are bitching about, girls shaking their butts on video getting tons of views. I'm like, you know what? I started looking around, and I found, like, Denise Austin had a huge cult following on YouTube because she can be quite goofy and completely oblivious to how sexual her workouts are. And I thought, that's pretty funny. Why can't I do something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Why not craft a series around the things that are viral that may not look like anything other than they got lucky? Why not craft something on? Like, remember, there was another video called The Psycho Cat, a crazy, angry cat that just screams bloody murder at you in the video. Why not have angry animals, even if it's cartoons or if you're just using Photoshop to make the cat look angry, like the dramatic chipmunk? Why can't somebody make some things out of it? Like, there was a guy who did Cute Things Exploding, which was an example of that.
Okay.
Where they did basically do just that. And take the angry cat and blow him up. Things like that. I mean, he didn't blow up real animals, folks. Don't worry. But he basically took pictures of them and had them moving around in goofy flash animation and blew it up. And he's had success for a number of years now. I mean, these are things that you got to research. Like, people in television will say, there's research and development, R&D, as they call it in the industry. When your show gets optioned for development, let's say, they put you in a room and they start developing it with other people. But here, we have the creative freedom to do it ourselves without people around us. But you got to go out and search, and you do have to do real research and real development. So what's working? Why is Fred so popular? Why is Shane Dawson so damn popular? Why? Because, well, other than the fact he's very good looking and girls really like him, he actually does have some talent. When Lisa Nova's station does videos, that's a good example of people with talent getting together. But there's things that they do that resonate for a reason, and you have to learn from that. Not just them, but how does Felicia Day do it? Why has she done so well? Why did the angry video game nerd get so big? You've got to look at these things and say, hey, wait a minute, I can do that. Yeah. Because now Charles, this cat call. Oh, anyone can do what you do.
Yeah. Try it.
I mean, I've gotten it. People have said that to me. Well, your show is just girls in tight clothes. So anyone can do that. I'm like, okay, do it.
Do it. Bring it on.
Go ahead. That it's there for you. Go for it. If you think that you can get it done the same way I did or make it bigger, go ahead. But that's a lot of research went into my show. I'm sure a lot went into Spell Fury as well.
Yep.
And
it's your own unique take on it, and it's your own unique show. And everyone's going to do it a different way. And one way someone does it, it might be a flop and no one watches it. But the way you've done it has been a hit. And the way I've done it has been a hit. It's somehow connected to the audience. And like where you've been going on is totally correct, is you have to change your show, watch what's working. You have to have your finger on the pulse of what's getting views. And a great example, I don't know, is Mumsy, the puppet that I built, just as a test. I was just trying to make teeth out of latex and try to get eyes blinking on a puppet. So I made this little bizarre-looking creature who then got 72,000 views on a chat roulette video I did with him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy crap, people! And like every second comment was, I want that puppet. I love that puppet. Mumsy's awesome. And I saw like 100 comments. I'm like, Mumsy's in the show. That's it. Mumsy's in Spell Fury.
Oh.
You have to have your finger on what's going on, and you have to adapt. You have to change. If something's not working, cut it. If something's working, do more of it. You have to know the lay of the land. You just can't hop in from TV and expect to do well.
That's right. And, back when television first happened, a lot of radio people and a lot of theater people made the same mistake.
Yeah.
They all thought, it'll never beat radio. You're all killing your careers. And then they all decided to put their radio shows on television, and they found it was just a guy sitting there in front of a microphone. And that killed most of them dead. And meanwhile, I Love Lucy happened, and Your Show of Shows happened, and Uncle Milty became huge. Now, the vaudeville stars, it's funny, vaudeville stars in movie and in television both made very smooth transitions.
Right.
But it was everyone else that seemed to make very poor ones. Like, that brings me to another topic I wanted to bring up, which is B-movies.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you wanted to talk about this.
And I think, we've both been in B-movies a number of times. Like, you and Julie, I believe, were in, what was it, Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter.
Yes, we were.
Which is, folks, go see this movie. Try to find it somewhere. Wherever you can find it, check it out, because it is just crazy, random, off-the-wall fun. And you'll definitely get a great kick out of it.
Well, Lee inspired me. He's the director, Lee DeMarbra. And he actually inspired me to get into film. I was doing theater at the time, and I was writing and directing, and then I would fill the theater, and we were making a profit doing original plays, comedies. And Lee was doing film at the time, and I was sort of jealous. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. He's doing this really 70s, zany-inspired sort of films at the time, like Harry Knuckles and the Pearl Necklace, and
oh, that one was beautiful.
and then the original Harry Knuckles, Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. So I met the guy, and some of the actors I was using at the time, we all said, hey, how can we help you, Lee? And so he cast us, a lot of the actors, in Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. But he was really an inspiration back then for me to get into film.
Yeah. And for me, like Chris Seaver's probably been my biggest inspiration in the last 4 or 5 years. Like he makes movies like Teenage Goes to Camp, Mulva Zombie Ass Kicker, Ski Wolf, and a few other goofy like 80s style or 70s style like basement horror slasher comedy classics, and like Quest for the Egg Salad and other, which was his sci-fi fantasy movie. And he would do these kinds of movies, and he makes like 5 or 6 of them a year, and he'll shoot them in 2 days. Everything he does is rapid fire, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And I learned so much from his directing style, like which is why I'm able to get Venus Spa shot in like 2 or 3 days whenever I film it, rather than like 2 months or whatever like it takes to make an indie movie, like a higher end indie movie. My feeling is that setup time is overrated. Sometimes you can just shoot. If you want to shoot something, take that camera and shoot it.
Right.
Don't do a big charade in terms of setup time. I learned all that from him, and I think it's really improved my productions. And I think that, and his stuff is goofy B movies fare, and I love it. Like much of the really popular stuff on YouTube is B movie inspired.
Mm-hmm.
Like
you and I are. Spell Fury has a cheesy B movie flavor to it at times, as does Venus Spa.
Yeah.
And know where that the reason why that works is it allows us to do it faster. Allows us to do it on a shoestring budget. And allows us to continue to do it. It's actually sustainable to do it that way.
Yeah, and there's the other aspect of it, which is what Funny or Die has done very well as well, is where else can you see this? Where else can you see, like Venus Spa had so much random stuff in season 2. Like we had that Friday the 13th style video game parody. Then we had like green slime coming down on people and we had fun facts all the way through the year. Like we would have, when someone would have an idea, the light bulb would show up. I mean, where else can you see something as wild as this? I mean, it was gorgeous women everywhere in tight clothing on top of that. But it was really, where else can you find this, and would you rather be watching that right now? That was kind of what I was going for.
Right.
And that's one thing that Funny or Die does to perfection. Like remember Charlie Sheen's cooking class?
I haven't seen that one, but
he takes a bite out. You think this is just a big tomato, right? With a superpower salad, and he'll take a big bite and go, tastes like winning.
Right.
Like, where else can you see crap like this? I mean, it's wild, it's crazy, it's different, and that's the thing. We're not giving people exactly what they'll find on television.
Mm-hmm. It's different.
Or movies. It's something it's a different experience entirely, and I think that's the way you succeed. And B movies have always been about that. And a lot of that has been, like, what was that? The new Roger Corman movie that just came up, which everyone was talking about on YouTube for a while. Sharktopus.
Sharktopus, okay.
I mean, enough said.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So you
gotta at least check that out, right?
Oh yeah, I mean you have to see what it is. You can't look away from it. And yeah, some might call it a train wreck, but I think that as long you don't look down your nose at something. Oh, that's so low end. But are you having fun watching it or not?
Right.
And if you're having fun watching it, even if it's a guilty pleasure, so what? It's fun.
It's fun.
And that's television has had guilty pleasures for decades. Love Boat, anyone?
Right.
I mean, seriously. So that's one thing I think that the web series establishment really should be looking at is don't try to be A-list. Be yourself first, and then worry about what list you're on. Because on the web there is no lists. We're all lumped in the same space, and we're all creating a hierarchy doesn't help. I mean, what you're doing isn't A-list in Hollywood anyway. So embrace your inner B, embrace your inner Lloyd Kaufman, embrace your inner Chris Seaver, or James Rolfe, or whoever you can think, or Andy Sedaris, or embrace it and have fun, and I think your viewers will have fun. I mean, that's all I can say.
Yeah, and again, it's got to come from within. It's got to be something you're passionate about. Like, you've been doing Venus Spa for how long?
This is year number 3.
Year number 3, so 3 years doing it. And Spell Fury is the same. 3 years. We haven't quit. There's been ups and downs, but it's something that we want to. It's ingrained in us, and we're not quitting, and we just push through. And the reason why we're doing it is because we're very passionate about our show, and we give it everything we've got.
Absolutely.
And that's why a lot of shows fail. Is they're sort of half in it. They're like, well, is the audience going to like this? I don't like. I don't know. You just have to be passionate about it. You've just got to be trying to tell a story. Like, I've got 6 seasons written.
Yeah, I write them year to year personally, depending on whether I want to make cast changes or change this or change that. And I tend to do it more on the fly in my case, but that's generally how I write. I don't like to be sitting on scripts because if I do, I'm just going to want to shoot it.
Right. Well, with me, it's not. They're not polished scripts. They're more. I've got the bold plot lines. All the way to season 6. And then as the show goes, it's very organic. I'm like, ooh, this works, and oh, what about this?
Yeah.
And so it's very organic. Not to say I've got 6 years of script sitting around. But
I hear you. Because, it's like money burning a hole in your pocket, right? If you own your own equipment, you just want to shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I get, and I'm sure most people with cameras and ideas do the same. I mean, I want to do this because it's like, filmmakers make films. They're not, film talkers just talk about them.
Right. Now, and one thing I've been thinking about, too, is, for a web series, when I started, there really was no format as to how to do it. I started with Sex, Star Explorer Xenolith, angry drunken space trying to get back his girlfriend. And
check it out, folks. You definitely want to see this. Definitely watch.
The first episode's terrible, but by episode 3, it got really funny. Anyways, yeah, I'm always trying to think, the format. There was no rule as to how many episodes a season you did. There wasn't even at that point, there really wasn't even a season. I know the Guild had sort of came out, but they were still feeling their way. And no one really knew what they were doing. Like, we were, is it a TV show? And how... The reason why they were so short is because no one had money. The longer your episodes are, the more expensive it will be.
Right.
If it's done at a certain level. Like, for it to look really professional and then be 15 minutes long, that's expensive and a lot of time.
I agree.
But we're still playing around with what is the format of a web series, and you can fight against the format, but even is it like I'm finding Spell Fury is turning a titch more TV showish, where I'm starting to think, half of every episode is going to take place in the tavern, just because it's too expensive and too much work to be trying to shoot like a film every episode. Because films are pricey.
I think what it comes down to, in a lot of ways, is just, like in my case, every season's probably this season's going to have a different length in terms of how many episodes from the year before, and which was more episodes than the year before that. And and they were a lot shorter in the second season. They're probably going to be a little bit longer in the third, because audiences wanted it. And not sure if they want longer seasons, but a lot of them wanted episodes that are longer. I think you do have to start from ground zero when you make a series. Make it short, make it punchy. And if your audience wants it to be bigger and longer, then they will tell you, and you will do it, or they might not be interested for a while. But it's always going to be experimental if you try to do it just with it. If you go in with just a straight, like I came in with a straight formula when I first started Venus, which it did okay, but it was clear that it could be better, and I made it more organic during the second season. In the third season, we're going to combine the best of both, season 1 and 2, to make that. So yeah, I think it's a learning process, and eventually you have a formula after a while. Anyway, you can't help but have that.
Right. I think you need it.
Because you've been doing it for so long that now you have the symmetrics down pat. What is an average episode of your show going to be like?
Mm-hmm.
You already know that because you've been writing it for years. So you now are in that mode.
And the audience gets used to. They go, oh, this is what I expect when I watch an episode of Spell Fury.
Yes,
I'm still. I find with me, I'm still trying to get there. It's still. I know with Venus Spa, you guys are usually in the club.
Usually in the workout studio or in the locker room. is where the majority of them are. We also have a lot of times where they face off with the evil workout instructors from the European Health Spa, which they will be on a street corner or on the side.
But it's almost like Cheers. They didn't leave the bar that much.
Almost never.
And there's a reason for that, because when you leave the bar, it becomes more expensive. You're on location. It's harder to do everything.
And it can arguably cease to be the show that people know.
Right. What they expect. They expect you to be inside the bar, which is very cost effective. And I think with a web series, you can get too aggressive. Like even with our show, the first season was almost all outdoors, which makes things hard because then you're shooting out in the middle of the night in the cold forest, and it's extremely hard. So where I'm at right now is I'm sort of we'll be in the tavern maybe for half the episode, and then for the second half of the episode it'll be a very filmic event out in the woods and lots of action. Right. And then the bar's home, almost like Cheers. And I think you just have to get your show so it's sustainable enough so that you can actually pull it off, and the audience sort of, gets used to it, I guess.
Sometimes you can't help that.
Yeah, I don't think I have a choice. Well, I had to find a place where I could actually put products as well. I needed... Yeah. So a bar is a great place, because that's been my challenge has been to how do you get Pepsi into Spell Fury? It's very difficult, unless you want to really stretch the storyline. But at this point, I'm willing.
But you haven't damaged anything with your show, because these places existed before anyway.
Right.
You established that a tavern existed in Spell Fury.
Yep.
At least one or two of them anyway. They might have been in different places, but the basics were already there.
True, yeah. It was already in the storyline. I didn't say, hey, I'm going to have a tavern just so I can sell stuff. There was a tavern in here for a reason. Venus
has had bar scenes in all 3 seasons. And that's probably going to continue. They're probably going to, as long as I have stub neck beer bottles, we're going to have 80s bar scenes.
Right.
And so it'll always, if you did, but that also comes from research and development. I'm sure you had ideas. Maybe what if? I'm sure there were what ifs, and we all do.
Yeah. What
if this happens? Will I be able to do something with it? Well, the answer in our cases is when it comes to brewery companies is yes. For like I had in the health club, so couture companies probably wouldn't want us for that reason because it's all sweat clothes, but so that wouldn't work. But I did have a battle plan as to what would be good and what do I want, what don't I, and I expanded it a bit, and we've both done it. I think there's things that can be done for that. Yeah,
the one thing we can't forget is TV is brought to us by advertisers. There's commercials, and there's product placements in shows, and most times it's commercials. So you break the show and show product. They're going to try to sell product.
Yeah.
If they don't sell product and they don't get enough eyeballs, then that show dies.
Right.
And it's going to be the same with a web series. I know. We have to embrace brands because that's just how it works. We won't get paid. I could not have product placements and keep doing Spell Fury, but I want to take Spell Fury to the next level, and I need more money for that. And we have to embrace them.
Absolutely.
No one's done this yet, but I've always thought it'd be a great idea to have in the middle of the show, just a commercial. And you get the brand and you do a commercial.
Blip and Hulu do that.
They cut it like a mid-roll?
For longer shows, yes, they do.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think even YouTube, I can click a button that says, at a certain point, like, at 7-minute mark, cut in a commercial. If it's longer.
The longer shows can do that. I'm personally not a big fan of that. I like the way things like Ask a Ninja do it, where they would have, like, some bumpers at the beginning and the end, but what they would do is make them part of the show and make it entertaining. Mm-hmm. I'm of the old school, like Johnny Carson commercials where he would do his commercials during the break.
Well, Leo does that. Leo Laporte. He just he'll talk with his guests for 7 minutes or 10 minutes, and he'll go right into the commercial about Netflix. and he's talking with the guests, then he's talking with the guests about Netflix, then he goes back to the show after 2-3 minutes.
Okay. That's something I would prefer to do personally. I think there's lots of things that you can do with it. I know there's people that don't like pre-rolls. I'm kind of in the middle on them. My only problem with pre-rolls is when when the decibel level goes straight up on them with the same volume level. Like one thing I noticed, that's my pet peeve with Blip, is that all their commercials are insanely loud.
So just like TV, eh?
But I'm just talking in general. The volume it hurts the ears actually, and then when it goes to the regular show, all of a sudden the volume's really low.
Well, that's just like television though. Like television commercials just go through the roof for the sound, and then it goes back to the show, and etc.
Yeah,
maybe that's a spillover from television.
It maybe, but it's really obnoxious and really piercing, and makes me not want to sit through it.
Well, my problem with pre-rolls is they're too long.
They're getting that way, yeah.
I don't like. I won't watch a show unless I really want to watch it. If it's like 30 seconds, forget about it. I'm gone. 15 seconds, maybe. But I like short ones, short, punchy. For instance, this episode of Spell Fury is going to have. This episode of Spell Fury is brought to you by blank, and I'll tell all you guys once I've released the episode. You'll see. But it's going to be 5-6 seconds, right to the show. And I've been thinking about this too. Is like right now we've got product placement in the show, but the old way, the television way, is the cool thing about that is to stop the show, show the ad, and then continue with the show. Is the show then isn't sort of doesn't have the product in it. You can be a little bit more pure. It's not touched by the product. But I'm dabbling. I don't mind. Especially our latest product placement, because it's a good fit in the fantasy type thing.
Right.
But at the same time, I still think there's something there with commercials in our shows that we pick and choose. I don't want random commercials that have nothing to do with Spell Fury. Like I don't want Viagra commercials during Spell Fury. For Venus Spa, it's perfect.
Yeah, it would be. Absolutely.
But yeah, you don't want a medieval sword company, during Venus Spa. It's like just weird. It's like what? But on Spell Fury, sure.
Yeah, random isn't good, but because it does nothing for the advertiser anyway.
No, they're not going to sell medieval swords by having it on Venus Spa during Spell Fury with the fantasy group. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah.
Do you have any more topics, or are we wrapping up?
I've pretty much covered the stuff on my end. If you have anything to add, throw it in. I'm ready to go.
I think I'm good. We're at the hour mark. Might be a good time to wrap up.
Absolutely.
Now, can you tell everyone where they can watch Venus Spa?
You can see it at www.youtube.com/watchvenusspa.
Okay, guys, check that out. And you can watch Spell Fury at, I say just go to www.spellfury.com. We have our latest episode on there and lots of links. So, I guess I'll talk to you next week about web series stuff.
Definitely. We'll talk to you guys next week, and watch some shows and let us know what you think. Play some comments. What's your favorite show? What would you like to see in a new show? Let us know, and we can keep this going, and we can talk more.
Sure, yeah. If you guys have ideas for a web series, put them in the comments, and then Chris and I maybe will discuss it on the next show.
Absolutely.
If it's a good idea or a bad idea, or if we can come up with an idea that we can put with your idea and make your show better, let's make this
Make a video response too.
Sure.
Join us. We'd love to have you.
Right. Yeah. Join the conversation. If you agree or disagree with us, Tom, if you're out there, respond to the video. Put a video response down there, and tell us what you think. And let's, we're a community, so let's talk.
Absolutely.
Okay. See you later, Chris.
See you.